Okay, so we had a question today. So training, we just finished our Saturday morning training. That was fun.
Yeah, it was a
And
good time.
yeah, 2 people got promoted to black belt.
Yeah, super proud of those guys, and I was so excited to be there for both of them. We knew about one of them, and the other one was a complete surprise.
Yeah.
So Michael Moore got his black belt today. So proud of that guy. Just super nice guy, real tough training partner. And the other one is Brian Brown. He got his black belt today also. Again, just one of the nicest guys and tough training
Oh my
partner.
God, he's so
So
freaking
tough.
strong.
So
And his technique is crazy good.
yeah, just so proud of both those guys.
Yeah, I'm super excited for both of them. It's well deserved on both those guys. Excuse me, they've been monsters on the mat for a long time. This just puts it up there, so that's great. I'm excited for them.
Yep.
So,
Yeah.
and I think Mike put it a good way that it's kind of like starting on the bottom again, you know?
Well, yeah, you don't, because when I was like, oh man, when I get my black belt, that'll be cool, and this and that.
Yeah.
And then I got it, and it's like, okay, well now I just have a solid understanding of jiu-jitsu,
Yeah.
like the concepts, but now it's like you have to learn how to actually do it
Yeah.
and how to implement it no matter what.
In a live situation.
Yeah.
I think that's so it's so different than what people on the outside see, because I think like the timing has to be perfect, and those guys that compete all the time, they have, like Jackson is a good example, like, you know, his timing is on point. For if you make one small error, he capitalizes on it, and it just keeps going and going and going. You just get killed, get murdered.
It's just relentless.
Yeah, and it's so watching these guys, I kind of agree with Mike on it. You know, you get your black belt, and you're like, shit. No, I guess. All right. But I got a question today that kind of might take some time to think about, but I do want to kind of address it. I have two questions actually. One is because a lot of the people that we train with are police officers, and with everything that's going on right now and all the craziness in the world, do you believe that jiu-jitsu helps you in a stressful situation? Does it keep you in a good mindset?
Yes, especially when it comes to if I'm gonna have to fight this person or something like that. Because when we're out on the mats and we're gonna roll with somebody, you get that's my water.
I'm so tired. I just want to drink water.
Oh, you can have it if you want. I don't care. I'm just gonna be thirsty. So I don't like people taking my food or my drink because I want it. So that's a little snappy. So I apologize. So yes, to answer your question, it does, because we put ourselves in those high stress situations all the time on the mat, and people are like, oh, well, it's a controlled environment, it's this and that. But you still get the butterflies, the anxiety of, I'm gonna roll this person, I don't know how it's gonna go.
Right.
Okay, now I'm getting choked out, I'm getting this, I'm getting that. And you get in that fight or flight situation where your adrenaline's going, your heart's racing, you may or may not be able to breathe as well, and you get comfortable being there. And you do it all the time, you become desensitized to it. And training as police officers, we try to do stress inoculation, meaning that we give them as much stress as we can during training situations, so that when they get into a live situation, their mind is already used to it and they're not as bothered by it. Now, with jiu-jitsu, since we do that all the time, we get into these fights, these stressful situations, our blood pressure doesn't spike up. We don't get those adrenaline spikes. We're pretty even keeled because it's nothing new. It's
Right.
not a situation that we're not familiar with. We may not have dealt with this exact set of circumstances, but the physiological response that the body is going to do, we're used to that. We're like, oh, all right, well, I've gone through this thousands of times. I still can make good choices, still have mental clarity. And if this person wants to fight, that's fine. I'm ready for it. It's not a big deal. And it allows the officers, and myself included, to make better decisions and be able to see the bigger picture. And we don't get that tunnel vision. We don't get that panic. We're able to communicate a lot more effectively because we're not just stuck on stupid with a heart rate of 190 beats per minute, not taking deep breaths, and basically just hyperventilating. And you see it in some of these videos, these guys that just get stuck on repeat and they're saying the same thing over and over. They're not analyzing the situation or utilizing different tactics. They're just stuck on one thing, and that's their lowest level of training, because that's what they're going to fall to. They're not going to rise to what they expect themselves to do.
Yeah, I think if you've never been in a fight before, if you've never been especially in a fight for your life, I mean, if you've never been in a fight before, it's the most exhilarating. Like your mind is going a billion miles an hour. You're trying to analyze what he's doing, what that person is doing. You're trying to see what's going on around you. You have bystanders. Now I'm not a police officer, but I've been in fights, and that whole thing goes through my head. Like, what's in front of me, what's behind me, what's this guy gonna do? He's a lot bigger than me. He's a lot smaller than me. All these things are going through my head when I have fought, and if you don't remain calm and try to analyze the situation, I think you will absolutely go off the deep end, and you'll not survive that match. You'll not survive that altercation. And when it comes down to being a police officer or any kind of law enforcement, even first responders, any first responder that gets in a fight knows. Like paramedics, I'm sure they get in fights. Nurses, they get in fights. I've seen it. I've heard about it. My sister was a nurse, and she's been in fights because of it. If you aren't prepared for something like that, it is a completely different situation, and you could be well out of your depths, and it could mean your life. And that's when it comes to jiu-jitsu. I mean, we are practicing murder every day, or every time we train, and because that person that is in front of you, he might be your friend, he might be your best friend, he might be the person you've done jiu-jitsu with for the last 14 years, but he still wants to rip my head off.
Yeah, or your foot.
Or my foot. He loves my foot. For whatever reason, he's got a foot thing, and it drives me crazy. So, yes. But it has really worked my defense for foot stuff, so I'm good. I appreciate that.
You're really good at it.
Yeah. But no, so I appreciate that, and I think that it's super, super important for people to understand that when on the outside looking in, you don't know what that officer is capable of, or you don't know what that person is capable of. And if all they have to resort to is that next level, because they're outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched, whatever, that could be the next step. And that's just how they're trained. That's how it is. So.
Yeah, and like you said, if they're not trained, they're gonna gas out, they're gonna get tired, and they're gonna get hurt. We had an officer get attacked a few weeks ago, and afterwards he's just like, man, like it was such a humbling experience, not being able to protect yourself.
Has he ever trained before, or was he just going off his basics?
Yep.
Okay.
And there's so many cops out there who they think so highly of themselves. They have such a high ego and so much pride that they're just like, I'll be fine. It's not, I'm too big, or I'm too this, too that. I've been a cop long enough to where I'll be fine. And then they get into someone who really actually wants to fight, and they don't do that good. Or they try out a jiu-jitsu class, and some little, I don't want to say little kid, but 120-pound lightweight purple belt just destroys them.
Roland?
Yeah, Roland. Any of those guys. We have a bunch of guys that I'll put against anybody in my department. They will destroy that person.
Yeah.
And they take such a deep blow to their ego that they don't want to come back because they can't handle it. Rather than looking at it like, man, if this person could work me so badly, imagine if it was out on the streets and my life actually depended on it. Imagine if it wasn't the super nice guy like Roland who wouldn't harm a fly, but he'll choke you to death.
Yeah.
Almost, Imagine if it was one of those people that you're going up against, and they don't look at that. They just, their feelings got hurt, and they don't want to come back. They just want to go back and basically pretend it never happened. And it's pretty scary talking to them to try to get them to come back. And they're like, no, it's fine. My shoulder was sore, my back was sore, drank too much night, but all the excuses just comes back to, no, dude, you just don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
You think you do, but until you get in a fight with someone who really does. Like, we have a guy we trained with, Lance.
Yeah.
Or, I'm sorry, not Lance, Lee.
I knew you were going to Le Mans.
What's that?
Le Mans?
Oh, yeah, Lee. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh
yeah,
my
Lee.
God.
He's our Muay Thai coach. He's also a strong purple belt in Jiu Jitsu, and it's like, man, I don't want to fight that dude.
Oh
Like,
hell no.
I've been training for 14 years, and I've been training long enough to know that I have no business challenging that man to a fight. You know, if it came down to it, and for whatever reason, I had to fight someone. Lee is the sweetest dude. Like, he would never attack anybody
No.
unless they had it coming. But
Yeah.
so if I had to go against someone who wasn't as nice as him, you know, I have my game plan. I know what I would do, and I would implement that game plan. But I have no business saying like, oh, I could do Muay Thai and beat everybody up or whatever because I've been a black belt for this long, or I watched whatever
12
videos.
12 YouTube videos.
Yeah.
I'm a pro.
You know, and I recognize that,
Yeah.
and I think it's easy for me to let go of my ego and be like, I don't care that I've been a black belt for this long. He will beat the crap out of me because he has a different skill set along with the skill set that I have, but that helps me to know that if I'm going up against someone like that, I need to change up my game plan rather than going against someone who's not trained, who, you know, they're gonna have some wild swings, duck one of those, you know, get my grips and take them to the ground. I'll have to have a much different approach to that situation, to that kind of fight, and you know, be a lot smarter about it.
Well, I think that the thing with Lee, he's strong on the ground and a stand-up. So when you go against somebody like that, you're gonna go to that next level. If you realize it, because you'll recognize like the stance that a person takes, and also the little cues that, like the fingers and the ears. You know, those little things are set-offs for me. Either they're a wrestler or jiu-jitsu, or they've been boxed enough in the ears where they have a little bit of a background of something in them. So I need to, you know, rethink my attacks. But somebody like Lee, you know, you're gonna have to go to that next level. If you find out that you know, he takes a stance on you, you're like, ooh, okay, shit, no, I know where I'm at with this guy. I need to. So you move to the next level as a police officer. It goes in different directions. It's so hard, and you have to make those decisions like split second. You can't just fuck around and be like, okay, no, wait a minute. Do you know Muay Thai or do you know Jiu Jitsu? No, yeah, okay. Let me ask you a couple questions. No, it's game on. It starts, and it's your life.
But the general public expects us to, for one, everybody to be ninjas, and two, we're like, well, you should have known that this person was XYZ, that they had a mental condition to where they're not going to comply with commands. You should have known that. You should have known that they have PTSD, and so if you yell at them, they're going to flip out. You know, you guys are responsible for knowing that stuff. It's like, my city has 280,000 people in there. I don't know everybody's unique personalities or
Medical
character
condition.
traits or medical conditions,
Right.
or any of that stuff. So,
Right.
and then they say like, oh, you should have asked before you went there, and people, they just don't understand how quickly these situations unfold and how dynamic and fluid they are. And the bottom line is, I have my little boy, my little girl, my wife that I'm gonna go home to.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and if someone's threatening that, if they're threatening to take away my little girl's dad, they got something coming. And
It's a different situation.
yeah, and you know, we've been there. I've been there before, and it doesn't work out well. And I have, you know, martial arts to thank for that.
It's and one of these days we'll touch on that maybe if we get comfortable enough to do that. If, you know, people respond well and they want to hear stuff like that, then we're more than happy. You know, Paul, I'll block that out. Oh, we're good, huh? We can do the Paul thing. If he feels comfortable enough to talk about those situations, or if he's even allowed to. So we'll see how that goes. But so I think we kind of got a general idea of where we are with those things at this point. But as we were leaving the gym today, completely different scenario, completely different thing.
Real quick, that was a good question. And anybody has any questions, please let us know. Like, we love answering questions, and
Yeah.
it sparks sparks our brains too. Like, okay, cool, that's something that people are wondering. So sometimes we'll just ramble on about whatever, you know. But if people have questions, we'd love to get them.
Do cops really like donuts?
So some of them do, and it's like, for one, there's a stereotype where I'm like, I don't want to eat donuts. but I just don't have a sweet tooth.
No, you don't. That is very, very true.
Yeah, so if it's ice cream, I will destroy gallons of ice cream. But other than that, I don't have a sweet tooth.
Yeah, I agree. It's funny. So yes, please, if you guys are listening to this, I hope that you, on the comments or whatever, if you have our numbers or messengers, send us a message. We'll be happy to answer questions for you guys, whether it's jiu-jitsu related, law enforcement related, whatever, and we'll dive into that. So I appreciate that. Thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate it. So on the second part of this, I was asked as we were leaving to maybe discuss what a white belt can do to improve his jiu-jitsu. And I think you came in right there at the end where he asked, and he was, so he said, hey, would you guys be able to discuss what can help a white belt? Not just okay, well, you got to work on your defense and you got to work on the specific techniques. What can help you as a white belt?
So in my experience, when people come in, the guys who become tough white belts quickly, they have good cardio, and that's a big one. So that's something that they don't need to go to class, they don't need anything else. Just put down the junk food and work on your cardio, whether it be running, swimming, biking, jump rope, the high intensity interval training,
the HIIT training,
CrossFit, whatever works for you. Work your cardio, because I see it over and over and again, and especially with white belts, because they get that panic mode, so they put in a little extra effort, they gas out super quick, and then it's hard for them to continue rolling for the rest of the night.
Yeah, happens with black belts when we're out of the game for a while too, because I know I get.
Oh yeah.
Today I feel good though. Today I feel good. I sat out once, but that's because I was talking with Sean, so it was good.
But it's different with us, because a lot of black belts, unless I'm going with like you or Sean or Jackson or Spencer, or any of the black belts, if I'm going with the lower belts, I can usually control the pace pretty well.
Right.
If I'm getting pretty tired, and right now I'm working on my guard, and it's getting me tired because I'm not that good at it.
I'm so proud of you.
But if they pass, it's not a big deal, because I can get comfortable with them on top of me. They can have all the pressure they want. That's fine. I can get comfortable with it because I've been there so much. I know the little adjustments to make, so I can catch my breath and then get back at it.
Right.
But with the white belts, they don't know all that stuff, and so that's why it's so important. If they want to get better quick, that's a good thing. It's going to help them out. If they get that cardio going, then the rest of the time they're just learning, focusing on technique, focusing on the other stuff.
Yeah, and I think cardio is important. I also think that mentally preparing yourself and trying to remember that the person that you're rolling with isn't really there to hurt you. Like, they're not going to kill you.
Yep.
They're not going to hurt you intentionally, normally. So try to mentally prepare yourself to be under that pressure and feel that fear and that claustrophobia that kicks in when you have a 200-pound person on your, mounted on you, or even a 145-pounder, mounted on you, and you're bigger, and you're like, why in the hell can't I breathe? Well, that's because they've adjusted their weight and they're able to smother you, basically. Yep. So you really do have to, in my cardio, and get mentally prepared to deal with those situations. I think that all of the technique in the world, that's going to come to you. That if you continue training and you continue through your journey, you will learn your techniques and you will learn your game. What I think beats most people is they don't ever keep in shape. They like start to get a little lazy or whatever, and they just beat themselves up mentally. I think that they get in there and they're like you said, the police officers, they feel that ego that just gets stripped away from them, and I think that if you can go in there, there's so many times that I have you on my side control. You're crushing me, and I'm just like, oh my God, I want to fucking quit. I want out of here. I want to be done. But I revert back to my reset button, and I'm like, no, because I know that this isn't going to be forever. Like, I will figure a way out of this eventually.
Yep.
And if I don't, I'll be okay. It's going to suck, but I'll be okay.
Yep.
And so I think those two are probably my top two. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, you gotta embrace that suck.
You really do. You do.
It's gonna happen. You're never not gonna have somebody dominating you unless you just find some little pond that you wanna be a big fish in.
Right, and I agree with that. I think that we've experienced that on a couple of occasions where, you know, you want to be,
you feel like you're a shark where you're at,
yeah.
and you go somewhere else, or like you're just a silly little guppy.
Yeah, sit down here, behave.
Yeah.
And it's kind of disheartening, to be honest, you know, because you never know what that one person is going to be in the long term. Like, what if that person was like is going to be the next thing in jiu-jitsu, next Gordon Ryan, the next, whoever.
Keenan Cornelius.
Keenan, yeah, we can go Keenan. He's actually pretty decent, I think.
I've heard his jiu-jitsu's legit.
Yeah, I've heard he's got this whole worm thing down.
If you're listening, Keenan, like, no, but really, you're really good.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
Don't come at us now. Okay.
100%, I'm not calling you out.
No, if you want to come and have lunch with us, we're good with that.
Yeah,
Oh, absolutely. We'll
I'll
even
buy.
buy.
Yeah, I'll pay.
But no, like working with Jackson or Sean, you know, those guys, they get into that positions on you, and you're just like, oh my God.
Yep.
I want to quit. I want to quit, but you don't. You cannot. You can't. You have to force yourself to get through that, and I think that that's a lot of where people fail. They don't. They just they give up. They quit. In your first week of jiu-jitsu, your first couple of weeks of jiu-jitsu, all you can do is survive, man. It's all you can do.
Yeah, just show up with a good attitude.
Yeah, exactly. Show up.
And another thing that gets a lot of people, and I'm definitely hypocritical of this myself, eat a good diet. I mean, I'm not saying have a super strict diet,
Right.
but don't eat junk food before coming to work out. Lay off the sodas, the sugar drinks, the all that stuff, the burritos and all that before you train, because it's going to sit in your gut like a bomb, and it's not going to help you out.
Nope.
You're going to have to experiment a little bit to see what works well for you, what sits in your stomach comfortably, whether it be the food or the timing of eating and all that stuff. But once you get it down, just kind of stick with it on the training days. You're probably not going to be drinking too much water, but staying hydrated is another key thing, because if you have a bad diet and you're dehydrated, again, you're going to gas out pretty quick, and then you're focused on how crappy you feel rather than the technique that your partner is implementing on you, or the move of the day, or something like that. So
100%. And don't think that just because you get ranked and you start getting up in the belt levels that any of this changes, because to be honest, it's more important now as a black belt for me, because I go in there and I get my ass worked on by strong white belts and blue belts and stuff. And I'm like, if I eat, or I do something shitty during the day, or even if I on like a Friday night go out and party and have a good time, drink a bunch of whiskey, and then show up, I'm screwed.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's super hard. So try to maintain on those. Definitely stay away from sodas. I cannot express that enough. If you drink soda, you need to stop. Period. It's the worst fucking thing in your body. It's so bad. That stuff is so it's terrible. So anyways, but beyond that, technique. Work on your basics. Work on your fundamentals. Keep your fundamentals going. Know that you are going to get mounted side controls, so work on your hip escapes. Work on your shrimping is huge. Hip dexterity is important. All those things. And it depends on your game too, I guess. Too.
It does. I've talked to some guys who are like, oh, I need to get stronger, and I tell them like, yeah, you don't really need to get stronger. Like, don't get me wrong, being strong helps, but if you don't have technique behind it, it's not going to matter. But you get some of the guys that they have the technique and then they get the strength behind it. That's going to be brutal.
It sucks.
But when you have no technique, like, you could be as strong as you want. I've gone against guys who are super strong, you know, and yeah, they push me around for a little bit, but their muscles are going to get tired. You know, I don't see anybody bench pressing 215 pounds for 6 minutes straight. Can they do it? Maybe. I don't know. I haven't seen anybody do it before.
Do that. Yeah.
Especially when that 215 pounds is trying to choke you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and moving, and it. But I have seen little 140-pound dudes throw me around and twist me up and choke me. So I would say work on strength and conditioning, but do the movements that are going to be applicable towards everyday life, not just jiu-jitsu, but everyday life, you know.
Yeah.
Rather than trying to bench press 500 pounds, maybe do 120 pounds, but do the full range of motion all the way down, all the way up. You know, if you're doing the curls, rather than doing the super heavy weights, do a much lighter weight, but extend your arm all the way out, being careful of injury and using good technique and all that, but extend your arm all the way out and then bring it all the way up, because that could work towards your armbar defense. You know, not that you're going to curl the person who's trying to armbar you, but it'll give you a little bit more strength in that situation.
Well, because the way to defend it is to actually, you know, kind of curl up and then like a curling motion, and then be able to maybe grab your hand and then switch your hips and try to stack that person and pull your arm out.
Yep.
So it may save you a few seconds to be able to actually defend it and get out.
Exactly.
Which brings to mind one of the other things I think people need to work on is, because everybody shows technique, everybody shows like the, you know, arm bars and the, you know, umabatas and triangles, stuff like that. Work on your defenses.
Yeah.
Work on your defenses. It's not sexy, but it's important. There's so many times that I've gotten caught and I'm like, son of a, I should focus on that. And I do now. I really do. And it may not be that I'm doing it live in person, but I do focus on it in my brain. Like, okay, if this guy catches me in a triangle, I will have to sit down and put my leg across because I know how this works. And then try to work through those situations. So work on your defenses too. Like I said, it's not sexy, but it's important. So if your coach isn't helping you with that, maybe ask him a couple of things. Like, hey, what's the basic armbar defense? What's the basic triangle defense? Mm-hmm. What's the basic omoplata defense? You know, get those down too, because those are the ones you're going to see the most. Basic choke defenses.
Yeah.
You know, talking on the telephone. I don't know how many times I've gotten people with cross chokes, and they're scrambling at my elbows and they're scrambling at my wrists, but they're not talking on the telephone. They're not defending the choke, and I eventually get them.
Yeah.
But so that's another thing I would think.
Yeah, that one's good, and a lot of the stuff, like like where we are right now, we'll let people work a little bit more than, like, I won't let Scott work anything in. I just won't.
Well, thanks.
Yeah. There's like when I was rolling with Spencer today.
Oh God.
Again, I'm not gonna let him work anything in unless it's something I haven't seen before. So like today, he was setting something up, and he had these weird, funky grips. I was just like, I don't even care what happens next. I want to see what's going to happen. And so I just kind of stayed there, and it was towards the end of the round, and I didn't move because I was so curious to see what he was going to do. And the timer went off. He's like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "Why'd you stop?" And I was like, "This looks really interesting. Like, I'd never seen this setup before. I wanted to see what you were going to do." And I said, "Can you please show me?" He's like, "All right." And so he got me to that same spot, and he's like, "Now stand up." And I went to stand up, and he dumped me on my head.
Oh shit!
Yeah, and I was like, "That's awesome." I'd never even heard, I wouldn't even know what to look for in that. And
I'll have to ask him because I'm curious.
Yeah, and I don't know how to repeat it. Otherwise, I'd show you. But it's like there, and so sometimes when we're working with people, we'll let them work the move in because it's going to sharpen our skills.
Right.
So now
sharpen our defense too.
Yeah, sharpen our defenses. So I might let him work the arm bars, let him get it close, or the triangles or chokes or something like that, or work get to a dominant position so I can work on getting out or whatever. But yeah, my brain just went blank.
Well, it's true. Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's true. I do that. I do the same thing. Sometimes I let it go too far, and it's my own fault. It is what it is, and then I'm in a fight for survival. Because I do the same thing. I'll let them go a little bit, and then because you get to a point where like they always say like iron sharpens iron. I don't know about that. I kind of agree with that. But I really believe that if you give somebody a little bit of success, like if you're rolling with somebody that like a purple belt and they are really trying to a certain move, or they're trying to do something, it's kind of cool to let that go a little bit, and then you find out where they're going, and then you got to defend it. It kind of gives you that edge of like, okay, this is how I got to work on my defense. You can't just because it's very, very rare that we get those times to work on our defense.
Yeah.
Unless we're rolling with like the black belts and stuff like that. But so I agree. I think it'll be a good thing.
How many?
To do that?
Let me ask you something. How many times have you been rolling with someone, and they get done and they're like, man, it's like you knew what I was going to do before I even knew what I was going to do. It's because we do this. We let people get in these positions, and we're in them so often. We've been in them for so hundreds or thousands of times, to where if we're rolling with someone who's a little bit newer, they're gonna. As soon as they start adjusting their body, like, oh, they're gonna go for this. Like someone's on top of you, and they're going for an arm bar. They're isolating the arm, and then you're just waiting for that leg to come over. Then they're gonna fall back, and we just get out of it.
Yep.
But it starts with them trying to isolate that arm.
Yeah. Yep.
And so the rest of it is like, okay, well, I know the sequence from there.
Yeah.
And it's because we're putting ourselves into those situations. Now, there's definitely people who I do not know what's happening, and they're catching me with things. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that was there. That's special.
Yeah.
And even worse is when I do know what's coming, and they still do it to me because I can't get out of it. Sean.
Absolutely.
Jackson.
Spencer. So I did try. I am trying the move of the day today that Sean showed us. I am definitely implementing that from
turtle one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That back attack. That's awesome. And be able to switch over to the reverse triangle. I love it. All right. So we're pretty much. I think we covered quite a bit on that.
Yeah, that was good.
We'll do some more on it. And if you have any questions, again, please shoot us a text, shoot us an email, put it on the comments, whatever, and let's discuss it. And then Paul and I will address it, or we'll ask Sean, or we'll ask Jackson, or we'll ask some people. And if we don't know, we'll find out for you.
Yep.
All right, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful day.